We got started as a company back in 2000, right after the dot-com bubble burst. It was not a good time to start, but we were a team of 5 PhDs from the MIT Media Lab. Founded the company, bootstrapped it for about 5 years, then took significant venture capital in 2005, ran it for another 5 years until we managed to sell it to Trimble Navigation, which is a large multi-billion-dollar technology company out of Silicon Valley.
Great. Well, that experience, I think, qualifies you to address an issue that confronts so many tech entrepreneurs, and that's venture capital. We'll start with that. If I get your sense from your work, it's not a question of yes or no on venture capital, but more a question of thinking about it at the right time and being mindful of what it will entail. Is that right?
That's correct. So my advice to young entrepreneurs is to do it if they have to, take venture capital when they have to, but do it with their eyes wide open and recognize the downsides of taking that step.
And okay, let's start on some of those downsides. I think you note that it will change the dynamic character of the company and some of the relationships, particularly among the founders. Is that right?
That's correct. The common belief is that venture capital changes the company because control shifts from the founding team or the management team to the investors, which is true. Also, there's dilution, so ownership shifts over to the venture capitalists. In my experience, the biggest impact comes from what's known as liquidation preferences. Once the investors are in, they have the right to get their money back, and sometimes more, before anyone else gets anything. And that's, in my experience, the biggest impact that they have.
Is that just a matter of the money, of who's going to get what at the end of the day, or does the injection of the capital and the element of influence that comes with it, is that the most pronounced effect?
Well, there's certainly the influence that comes with that, and in our case it was actually unusual because we maintained control of the board, we maintained control of the shareholder board, but still with what's known as negative covenants, the investors can essentially block your every decision that you make, at least the major ones. So for us, that at some point meant that we were not able to raise more capital because the majority shareholder investor said he wants out. So that's one of those situations where you lose the ability and certain degrees of freedom.
In many cases, it is not a single entrepreneur starting a company, but indeed a group, a founding group, who may have years of friendship and association preceding the creation of the company. But that founding group is unlikely to walk through this entire process with the same relationship. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, in our case, we actually had worked at MIT for up to 5 years together. I was convinced that we all knew each other very well. We were largely friends. The biggest surprise for me was running a company with those guys changes everything. The existential pressure of having to earn enough money to pay salaries, and also very important to have this constant uncertainty around what's going to happen, whether you're going to be successful, and when. That really changed the dynamic between that group dramatically. And as a matter of fact, only 2 of the 5 founders made it all the way through the end, the exit of the company.
Is there a better time to have that conversation among your founding group than later in the process? Is it better to talk about that sooner, long before the VC investment?
It's definitely a good time to have that conversation very early on. The trouble is, especially with founders coming out of school, which is a great time to found a company, but you just haven't had that experience. You don't really know what you're talking about, frankly. Right? A lot of times, people don't have families, which is a great thing. So that creates degrees of freedom that you won't have later. But all those assets that you have on day one are also working against you, because eventually people will have families. And if it takes a long time to make the company successful, then those issues creep in and they cause tension.
So these are some things that even a good business plan cannot anticipate. How about in terms of what the company's actually doing, the product mix, the service and the like? Is that likely to be affected during this process of new financing, of outsider financing?
Yeah, in our case, we started as a services model, which really enabled the bootstrapping. So we would not invest a single dollar for 5 years, and yet we built a profitable business, working on prototypes, working on design contracts with large corporations. And it was only when the market we were in, the RFID market, experienced significant hype that we felt we had to take capital, turn ourselves into a product company, and then stay competitive that way. So for us, we took the capital because we wanted to be something else. But once you have the VC money, they also, they want you to be a specific kind of company. So the lifestyle, we like what we're doing. It's okay if we make a decent salary, but not go for an exit. That's not an option for a venture-backed company.
Was there, now this outcome was relatively successful, but was there something about this process that was at all disillusioning to you, or at least something that blew up some of your original conceptions of what you were trying to do with ThingMagic?
Well, we became a successful company, but we didn't become the company that we thought we would want to be, and we also didn't become billionaires.
I said relative success. Well, but that leads to another question. Now, I note that the subtitle to your book includes, and I'm sure this is from your publisher, how to, or among the achievements is cashing in for success. Now, is the cash in for success the end all and be all of what founding a company is about? Or is there some other element, significant element of satisfaction that gets sacrificed along the way?
Yeah, I'm arguing in the book that your founders should really do some soul searching and early on and define what it means, or what it would mean for them to be successful. And if success is purely based on how much money they will make, I don't think founding a company is the right thing to do. There's lots of places over, in the course of building that venture where success happens, right? And whether or not there's a big exit at the end of it, I think should be the smaller issue, right? But it's sometimes challenging to identify those moments of success and see when those metrics fall into place, right? When you, for example, even if you have an exit where you don't make a lot of money, but all your people come over and they now have a stable home, which we were fortunate to get done, those are the real moments of success. So if you build a brand that is around, maybe as part of a larger company, even if you're not a billionaire, I think you have accomplished something wonderful.
Do you feel at all the urge to do it again, to try to once more go for the sort of outcome type of company, not as much financial outcome, but type of company that you had in mind when you started ThingMagic? Yeah,
I think I have one or two in me still. It took a long time, unusually long. We spent 10 years building it. We spent 3 years working for the acquirer. So
I wonder if that's an explanation for why so many times there are serial entrepreneurs. They keep going for the same thing again and again, and it always diverts off to a different path.
Yeah, they're trying to pursue that ideal until they die. Yes.
Well, hopefully a long track along the process. Let's steer away from VC for a moment, because so many of us here, including myself, are very focused on Asia. In terms of building the company, any tech company, including yours, wherever you're based, Asia is an increasingly important aspect. Is that right?
It certainly is for the kinds of electronics manufacturing that we are doing. It was 10 years ago when we first started to make products. And that, in fact, 2004 was the first time that I traveled to China and to look for places to manufacture.
Is there an advantage or disadvantage, would you say, depending, of course, on the type of business that you're in, to a company being created here in the U.S. and then going to Asia to essentially build out its business, as opposed to a company being created in Asia, where as Rebecca Fannin has demonstrated, there's an increasingly active VC market?
I think it definitely depends, and it depends where your customers are. Right? For us, the main initial market was America, to some extent Europe. So it's important that you are where your customers are, because at the end of the day, you know, the supply and the manufacturing, you can make it work. Right? But if you're not able to talk to your customers on a daily basis, that's not going to work, in my opinion.
On balance, from the whole experience, both financing and operations, are there 2 or 3 sort of bottom line points that you would leave to any entrepreneur, regardless of in the area of technology, say, that they're starting out in?
Well, maybe to follow up on that issue of manufacturing in Asia, one of the mistakes that we made was that we didn't carefully look for the right manufacturing partner. It's a little bit like venture capitalists, right? You have to find a match in terms of how much money you need, you know, what their subject matter interest is. And with manufacturing partners in Asia, I found the same to be true. When I first went there, I was being given a tour of the little Shanghai manufacturers, injection molding here, electronic components there. There was no way that they could ever make our product. Right? The second time around, we talked to very, very large electronics manufacturers, a company that built its business by making Apple's iPod. Once again, we were completely in the wrong place, because there's no way we could get any mind share of that kind of large-scale manufacturer. So finding the right middle ground, which we ultimately did, was really the trick to get that done.
How did you do that?
I think that there has to be a match in terms of size, primarily, because they will treat you according to how important you are for their business. And if you're not, then it's an uphill battle. But if you can find a good match in terms of size, then a lot of those issues sort of fall into place.
Model, when you began your company, was it a core product that had diversification and development potential, or was it a single product?
We were able to ease into it quite slowly by initially providing services in a particular industry, the iPod industry at the time, and then slowly building up IP, which ultimately would become the products that we sold, which is a method that I highly recommend, because having that huge initial non-linearity where you say, we're going to invest so and so many millions into this product, and then we see if they'll come and buy it, that's a very dangerous thing to do, and not very gratifying in my opinion.
All right, let's give Bernd and Tim a round of applause. Thank you very much. Great Q&A.